The medical wing still smelled of burned metal and clean chemicals. It was the smell of something that had almost gone wrong. Eli Cross stood alone beside the diagnostic bed, staring at the empty space where Queen Valera had been only minutes ago. The station still trembled from distant ship movements. Docking clamps locking. Engines cooling. Emergency lights flickering back to normal. The war had officially ended 3 hours earlier. But peace had not arrived yet. Eli looked down at his hands. Those same hands had stitched soldiers back together. Closed wounds that should have killed. Restarted hearts that had already stopped. But today, those hands had frozen. Because a queen had whispered something impossible. Marry my daughter, and give me a strong grandchild, human. He replayed the moment in his head again. Her voice had not been joking. It had not been emotional. It had been strategic. That was worse. Eli was not a diplomat. He was not a general. He was not a political solution. He was a surgeon. And now he was being moved like a chess piece across an empire. The wall behind him chimed softly. Relocation confirmed. He blinked. I didn't agree to anything, he muttered. The wall did not care. Panels opened. His belongings folded themselves neatly. His uniforms stacked like silent judgment. Temporary reassignment. Temporary. That word meant nothing when a queen used it. Eli exhaled slowly. He had survived border wars. He had survived command reviews. He had survived 3 different alien medical systems trying to improve his methods. But he had never survived being personally selected by royalty. And something deep inside him whispered a quiet truth. This was not about marriage. This was about strength. And strength, in interstellar politics, always came with a price. Arrival at the palace. The palace did not sit on a planet. It floated. A massive orbital structure built around a dying star, its energy harvested and controlled with frightening precision. Transparent sections showed the glowing star below, like a burning heart. Eli stepped off the transport ship and felt gravity adjust beneath him. The floor corrected his balance before he even moved. He did not like that. He preferred solid ground. Unpredictable ground. This place felt too aware. Attendants walked past him in silent formation. Long ears. Pale hair. Calm eyes. Every movement controlled. Every expression measured. They were watching him. Not openly, but carefully. He was escorted to a suite larger than his entire medical wing back home. The walls shifted color as he stepped inside. Blue. He checked his pulse. Elevated. Relax, he told the room. The walls shifted to green. He stared at them. You're very proud of yourself, aren't you? The lights dimmed slightly. Yes. He rubbed his face. This is going to be a long assignment. The evaluation begins. Days passed without clear explanation. No official statement. No announcement. Just observation. He was invited to review training drills. Asked to analyze medical readiness. Requested to speak with engineers about battlefield survival rates. It was subtle. Too subtle. Every time he spoke honestly, someone recorded it. Every time he disagreed respectfully, someone noted it. When he helped a low-ranking guard adjust armor fit without being asked, 3 attendants pretended not to notice. He knew what this was. The Queen was studying him. Not his skill. His character. That was more dangerous. One afternoon, while explaining to a medic that fainting was not a professional coping strategy, the air shifted. The hum of the room lowered. Eli turned. Queen Valera stood at the far end of the training hall. Still. Composed. Watching. You adapt quickly, she said. I dislike confusion, Eli replied. It motivates me. A small smile touched her lips. And yet you have not demanded answers. I assumed they would involve paperwork. That made her laugh softly. It startled the entire hall. She gestured for him to follow. The others disappeared instantly. The corridor lights dimmed as they walked. The palace adjusting around her presence. You understand, she said quietly, that you are being evaluated. I assumed, Eli replied. Palaces don't relocate surgeons for entertainment. Her long ears tilted slightly. Does it trouble you? Yes. She waited. But not enough to run. That seemed to satisfy her. Meeting the princess. Eli met Princess Althea because he fell. A training drone shifted gravity at the wrong second. He stumbled forward. The floor did not help him. This time, it let him fall. That system has poor timing, a calm voice observed. Eli looked up. Princess Althea stood nearby, arms folded. She looked like her mother, but lighter somehow. Less weight in her eyes. More curiosity. You always greet foreign guests this way, he asked. She tilted her head. You are not a guest. That's concerning. She almost smiled. My mother believes you should train with me. Your mother believes many things, he replied. They entered the sparring field. Sensors activated. The air shifted. Althea moved first. She was precise. Fast. Controlled. Centuries of refined combat tradition guided her movements. Eli moved differently. Less graceful. More unpredictable. He blocked too early. Dodged too late. Used momentum instead of perfection. He did not fight to impress. He fought to stay standing. After several exchanges, the system signaled equilibrium. No clear winner. Althea studied him. You do not fight like someone seeking favor. I fight like someone who dislikes hospitals. She laughed. A real laugh. The system recorded it. Somewhere deep in the palace, data shifted. Conversations in twilight. Over the next week, their training became less formal. They spoke between rounds. About medicine. About politics. About what it meant to grow up knowing your life was valuable not because of who you were, but because of what you represented. Althea spoke carefully at first. Then honestly. I was raised to be stability, she said one evening. That sounds heavy, Eli replied. It is. He nodded. I was raised to fix things. And I learned some things don't want fixing. They want listening. That stayed with her. Later that night, the Queen summoned him again. This time to the upper observation ring. Stars stretched endlessly beyond transparent walls. Valera stood beside the railing. You treat my soldiers as people, she said. They are. You argue with my engineers. They are wrong sometimes. You refuse to fear me. I fear you, he corrected. I just don't perform it. That earned a longer look. I once believed strength could be bred, she said quietly. Secured through lineage. And now? I'm uncertain. Eli leaned on the rail beside her. Strength is what remains when the plan fails. She considered that. You have watched many plans fail. I specialize. She laughed again. Less controlled this time. The final summons. The summons arrived without warning. Location. Time. Polite reminder that running would be rude. Eli entered the council chamber. Circular. Star maps drifting above. Althea stood already waiting. If this is execution, she whispered, I object to the lack of ceremony. I didn't even comb my hair, he replied. Queen Valera entered last. The room shifted around her. She dismissed all attendants. Only 3 remained. I called you here, she said calmly, to conclude my evaluation. Eli nodded. I suspected there would be a final exam. She turned to him. You were invited into my bloodline as strategy. He opened his mouth. She raised a hand. Do not interrupt. He closed it. I believed strength could be secured through alliance. Through calculated inheritance. She looked at her daughter. I was wrong. Silence filled the chamber. You complicated my plan, she told Eli. I apologize. You were sincere. Althea stepped forward. Mother. Valera met her gaze. You are not a resource, the Queen said quietly. You are my daughter. That shifted something. In the room. In history. She turned back to Eli. If you choose to remain here, it will not be because I commanded it. And if I leave? He asked. You will leave with honor. Silence again. Not heavy. Open. Eli looked at Althea. She did not look like royalty in that moment. She looked like someone waiting to be chosen as a person. Not a symbol. I didn't come here for legacy, he said slowly. But I found something worth protecting. Althea smiled. Small. Real. Valera exhaled quietly. Not as queen. As mother. Then choose each other, she said. No obligation. Above them, the star maps shifted. New paths forming. Peace lasted 9 days. On the 10th day, the alarms returned. Eli was in the lower medical wing of the palace, arguing gently with a palace engineer about emergency response times, when the lights shifted from calm white to sharp red. Not panic. Warning. A deep tone echoed through the structure. Not loud. Controlled. That was worse. The palace never panicked. It prepared. Eli looked up at the ceiling. That doesn't sound routine. The engineer swallowed. It is not. Across the palace, soldiers moved with perfect coordination. Doors sealed. Shields activated. Star maps flared to life above the central chamber. Eli felt something strange. Not fear. Expectation. Like the universe had decided it was time to prove something. His wrist terminal flashed. Council chamber. Immediately. He exhaled slowly. Of course, he muttered. The threat appears. When Eli entered the chamber, Queen Valera and Princess Althea were already there. The holographic star map showed a fleet. Dark ships. Angular. Unfamiliar design. But their formation was clear. They were not here to talk. They crossed the border 2 hours ago, Althea said quietly. No communication, Valera added. No negotiation request. Eli studied the projection. They want a reaction. Valera's ears angled slightly toward him. Explain. If they wanted war, they would have fired already. If they wanted diplomacy, they would have announced themselves. He pointed at the formation. They want you to make the first mistake. Silence followed. Several council members exchanged looks. Valera watched him carefully. And what mistake do you believe we are expected to make, human? He met her gaze. Overconfidence. That word hung in the air. The Aurelian Empire had not been challenged openly in decades. They were powerful. Advanced. Disciplined. But power often grew predictable. Valera turned to her commanders. Hold defensive positions. No offensive action. A few officers hesitated. One finally spoke. Your Majesty, hesitation may appear weak. Valera's voice did not rise. Measured response is not weakness. She glanced at Eli. Continue. He hesitated. This was not his field. He was a surgeon. But humans survived because they adapted. They're studying you, he said. Testing reaction speed. Communication patterns. Shield rotation. Althea narrowed her eyes. They are mapping us. Yes. Valera straightened. Then we give them something new to map. Human strategy. Within an hour, palace systems shifted. But not in ways the enemy expected. Instead of military aggression, the Aurelian fleet began evacuation drills in visible sectors. Civilian ships moved first. Emergency corridors opened. Medical ships positioned strategically. To an outside observer, it looked like fear. But Eli knew better. You're protecting civilians before showing strength, he said quietly to Althea. Yes. That's not typical Empire behavior. It is now. Meanwhile, Eli made a request. I need access to battlefield telemetry. A commander frowned. You are medical personnel. Yes, Eli agreed. Which means I understand survival statistics. Valera nodded once. Grant him access. Data streamed across the central display. Enemy weapon charging cycles. Shield frequency fluctuations. Energy distribution across their fleet. Eli watched patterns. Humans were good at seeing patterns. Especially in chaos. They're not fully powered, he said after several minutes. What? An officer demanded. Their rear ships are holding back power reserves. They want to escalate gradually. Althea looked at him sharply. They expect us to strike hard. Yes. Valera's eyes sharpened. Then we will not. The first move. Hours passed. Tension thickened. Then the enemy fired. Not at the palace. At an outer mining station. A civilian one. The blast lit the edge of the star map. Several ships were damaged. Casualties unknown. Eli's stomach tightened. That was deliberate, he said. They want outrage. Valera's voice remained calm. Dispatch medical and defense escorts. No counterattack. Not yet. Some council members were visibly uneasy. Our people are being struck, one said. And they are being rescued, Valera replied. Althea stepped forward. They want us angry. They want us predictable. Eli added quietly. They don't understand humans. Valera glanced at him. Explain. Humans don't just hit back harder. He met her gaze. We endure longer. The trap revealed. Telemetry shifted again. Enemy ships began advancing closer. Confident. Believing hesitation meant weakness. Eli zoomed in on energy readings. There, he whispered. Althea leaned closer. What? Their forward shields are cycling faster than their reactors can maintain. Meaning? They're bluffing. Valera's ears lifted. Clarify. They look stronger than they are. But their reserve ships are still holding power. They expect you to overextend and chase. Silence. Then realization. Valera gave her first sharp command of the day. Prepare controlled advance. The fleet moved. Not aggressively. Not wildly. Measured. Precise. They advanced only enough to force the enemy to react. The enemy responded exactly as Eli predicted. They redirected power forward. Their rear guard weakened. And that was when Valera struck. Not with fury. With calculation. A swift maneuver from the side. Targeting the power reserve ships. Within minutes, 2 enemy vessels were disabled. Not destroyed. Disabled. Alive. That was intentional. The enemy retreated. Confusion rippled across their formation. They had expected anger. They found patience. The human moment. As the enemy fleet began pulling back, Eli felt something shift. He was not in a medical bay. He was not stitching wounds. But he had helped save lives. Without firing a weapon. Althea stepped beside him. You were right. Don't sound surprised. I'm not. She hesitated. You think differently. Humans survive by thinking differently. Valera approached them. The red lights had faded. The palace hummed calmly again. You saw what my commanders did not, she said to Eli. I saw what they were trained not to look for. And what is that? Arrogance. The word was not insult. It was warning. Valera nodded slowly. Strength that cannot question itself becomes fragile. Eli smiled slightly. Humans question everything. I have noticed. The enemy's message. Just as calm began to return, a transmission cut through the chamber. Encrypted. Unidentified origin. It projected a distorted figure. Tall. Armored. Voice metallic. You adapt faster than expected, it said. Valera stepped forward. You attacked civilians. Yes. Why? To measure response. Eli felt anger rise, but controlled it. The figure continued. The human was not predicted. Every eye in the chamber shifted to Eli. The transmission flickered. Your empire changes. That makes it dangerous. Valera's voice was ice. Leave our space. The figure paused. Not yet. Transmission ended. Silence returned. But now it carried weight. Aftermath. The fleet retreated fully by night cycle. Damage was limited. Casualties lower than expected. The Empire had not overreacted. It had evolved. Eli stood again at the observation ring later that evening. Stars burned steadily beyond the glass. Althea joined him. "They tested us," she said. "And we passed." He leaned against the rail. "They'll come back." "Yes. But next time, they won't underestimate us." She studied him. "You changed today." He shook his head. "No. I just did what humans do." "And what is that?" He looked at the stars. "We protect first. Then we adapt." She smiled faintly. "That is not weakness." "No." Behind them, Queen Valera watched quietly. Her empire had faced threats before. But today was different. Today, she had seen something new. Not military strength. Not technological advantage. But human resilience. Unpredictable. Stubborn. Patient. And deeply protective. She approached them slowly. "The Council will resist further integration of human strategy," she said calmly. Eli nodded. "Of course they will. Change is uncomfortable." "So is losing," he replied. That earned a rare, open smile. "You speak as though you belong here." He hesitated. "I'm starting to." Althea reached for his hand briefly. Not formal. Not political. Just human. And Aurelian. Valera observed the gesture. Not as queen. As mother. The empire had been tested. But so had something else. Trust. And for the first time in centuries, Valera allowed uncertainty without fear. Because uncertainty, she now understood, was not weakness. It was possibility. Far beyond the palace, hidden in dark space, damaged enemy ships regrouped. Their commanders reviewed battle data. One detail repeated in every analysis. Human variable detected. Probability models recalculating. Outcome predictions unstable. And in the center of those calculations was one name. Eli Cross. The surgeon who had not fired a weapon. The human who had changed a war by refusing to behave like an empire. The next conflict would not be simple. It would not be